Right, so we're here today with this absolute patriotic legend, Jayda Fransen. So today we're going to have a discussion about her future plans, what she's been through over the past year, and her opinions on all things Europe and Britain. So thank you, Jayda, for joining me today. I have to say, it's an honour to meet you because this is like been years in the making.
It's my pleasure. It's good to be with you all.
Yep. So firstly, where do we start? So let's talk about what's been happening to you, because you've been out of, how long have you been out of prison now?
So I got out of prison in November last year, and it was pretty contentious from then on, although prison itself was contentious. But I was released in November. I went over to Northern Ireland, to my home. My home in England has been taken from the lawsuit against the Halal Food Authority.
This is because of the establishment. For you speaking out?
Yep, absolutely. So I went to Northern Ireland. I was told I wasn't allowed to live in my own home, and since then, just the general persecution, prosecution, harassment from the state. You're familiar with that?
I'm familiar with that. I was forced out of my home as well. So what are the differences between Northern Ireland and the mainland in England that you would say?
Gosh, so right, here's the thing. I would say that Northern Ireland is like the last stronghold of Britain. And here's why I think that's the case, because the mainland, although we had the two world wars and we won them, we fought hard, and all of our heroes need to be remembered forevermore, there's been a long period where we haven't really suffered. We haven't experienced oppression or suffering. You go to Northern Ireland, and of course they have. We had the Troubles over there, and there was real, real suffering and loss. And so I think for that reason, they cling on to the British culture and they promote it like ferociously. So I really love living over there. I'm really enjoying it. I just had my first 12th. I've been banned from Northern Ireland. Yeah, all the marches, the parades, it's absolutely brilliant. And well, hopefully next year you can join me.
Of course, definitely. So so the differences obviously between Northern Ireland and obviously the British mainland are from what I can gather is the Northern Ireland peoples, the Northern Irish people still have a sense of their identity, which is, in my opinion, which would be Western Christian values. What would your message be to people in the United Kingdom that say that firstly we're not a Christian country, and secondly we should live in a secular society?
Well, that's just not true. I mean, it's not correct. We can say, people say a lot of things. People these days, anything goes. So anyone or anything can identify as whatever they like. Like, that's the new culture, right? So, John can be born a man, he can identify as a woman, or, tomorrow he might identify as a zebra, and if you say he's not a zebra, it's a hate crime. So you can say the same about Britain. You can say it's not a Christian country because, it's multicultural. So we have people from all different nations, from different backgrounds. But here's the thing, that's fine, that's all well and good, because we have many cultures in Britain that assimilate, and they bring themselves into the British culture and they absolutely embrace it. And then you have cultures that can't assimilate because, by virtue of their own cultural background and ideology, they just can't. It's not possible. It's a contradiction. But Britain is a Christian country, and it always will be. It was founded on Christian values. You just have to look at our flags. What do the flags have upon them? They have Christian crosses. And so, I think this is, for me, the main problem with Britain, and it starts, the establishment is largely responsible for this, but it's the erosion of Christianity and tradition and values. That is why we are where we are today.
So what would let me just think about it. So obviously when we talk about Christianity and Christian values, we have the left that will constantly repeat this narrative to us that Islam is a religion of peace, Christianity and Islam are the same, and that we should all share this common belief of shared values. How do we educate people on the basis that Christianity and Islam are completely separate ideologies? One advocates for peace and one advocates for violence against anybody that doesn't believe into that narrative. So how do we educate, I'd say, atheist leftists that kind of lump Christianity and Islam into one group, basically?
Yeah, well, this is the $1 million question. I think really you have to look at this as an agenda. So you'll see that the left will label Islam, Judaism, Christianity all as Abrahamic religions, right?
Yeah.
But they're not. Islam is not an Abrahamic religion. So you have to look at Islam. Look at the scriptures of let's take the two examples you gave. So Christianity and Islam.
Yep.
So here's the thing, right? You and I have both been labelled as Christian extremists.
Proud of it, by the way. We're proud to be
Absolutely.
Christian extremists.
Absolutely. Like, I'll wear that hat all day long, because here's the crux of it. If you follow the Bible, the Christian scriptures, the gospel by the letter, then you have to be good to one another. That's what God commands of us. That's what Jesus commands of us. In the Beatitudes, that's what we were taught. And so if you follow Christianity, you have to be good to one another. That doesn't mean that we're a pushover, because by no means was Christ a pushover. But that's the basis of Christianity. If you follow Islam, the key principle of Islam is jihad.
Yeah.
Right? That's just a fact. It is the most talked about concept in the Quran, is that jihad is mandatory. It's not an option. You can't choose whether to engage in jihad. The Quran states if you don't have it in you to wish to wage jihad, even if you're not physically able, then you are a hypocrite. And in Islam, hypocrisy is worse than apostasy. The penalty for apostasy is death. So I don't know what's worse than death, right? But hypocrites get worse than that. So they're two key principles. And like you said, how do we get people to understand this? Well, for me, it's simple. I don't understand why, when Lee Rigby had his head cut off, right, by Michael Adebolajo and his sidekick, and I will never forget seeing Michael Adebolajo on TV holding a meat cleaver. The TV was on mute, right? I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
And I saw this body, one of our Queen soldiers, but I didn't know at the time, on the road because this monster had just decapitated him. And he was saying he was doing it in the name of Allah. At that point, I don't understand why everyone didn't go out and read the Islamic scriptures. That's as easy as it is. And so we're both Christian. So all it boils down to is bring people back to Christ, bring people to the scriptures. That doesn't mean they have to believe, but even if they understand, if they see the concept of love and hate, it's simple.
So was that, because I've always wanted to ask you this, what was the moment that made you get involved in this? Because obviously I know quite a bit about you, followed you for years. I know that you ran a very successful business, you had a very nice life. To give all of that up and to get involved in this movement, which obviously we're all passionate about it, but everybody that gets involved in this movement gets persecuted by the police. So what was the defining moment? Was it the murder of Lee Rigby, that you thought, right, I need to get active, I need to make sure that people understand the evils that we're up against?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, before that, obviously I'd seen 9/11, but I was young when it
Yeah.
happened. You would have been even younger, I'm
I
sure.
think I was, I was 12, just turned 12.
Okay, right.
So how old were you?
I don't know how old I was, but I think I was a little bit older. But not much. So I remember watching that. Actually, I was in school, and they wheeled a TV into the schoolroom, like the classroom, and we were watching these towers fall, and it was just a surreal moment. So for me, that was the first thing. And then, but up until then, like, who knew about Islamic extremism? It wasn't a concept that was talked about, even though there are Christians in Pakistan and Nigeria, all over Africa that are being persecuted, and Israel, but it wasn't talked about in the UK or across Europe. So that happened, and then 7/7 happened. I worked in London when the 7/7 bombings took place, and I remember driving to work and hanging back from any bus that was in front of me because we were all scared that the bus was going to blow up, And I think it was 7/7 that I really started to investigate the scriptures, and Lee Rigby was absolutely, like, you're right, that was the defining moment. I thought, if there is a man stood on TV saying that he's doing this in the name of Islam, then the least I can do is see if he's telling the truth. And I've studied the Islamic scriptures, and he is 100% telling the truth. He did that in the name of Islam.
Yeah, because when in regards to 9/11, I remember seeing that as a child and seeing how bad it was. My dad worked in the Middle East for over 30 years, so he told us about Israel and Islam and whatnot. But the murder of Lee Rigby really hit home, because I was working in a call centre at the time, and we had these two, I can describe them as leftist women, that said that Lee Rigby, he deserved that because of what our troops had done in foreign countries, which is a massive problem. So we have people in our society now that justify the deaths of British soldiers at the hands of Islamists, and they justify it by saying about our foreign policy, which is completely abhorrent. And now we fast forward, and what I've seen in particularly over, say, since 9/11, is this concealment of Islam, where You've got from George Bush saying it immediately after the 9/11 attack. He visited a mosque and declared that Islam was a religion of peace. So we have the establishment that are forcing a narrative down our throat that Islam is a religion of peace, and you know, people like you, people like Tommy Robinson, what you're saying is, it's hate speech. It's not hate speech, because how you educate people and inform people is by, giving them detailed descriptions of Islamic scriptures. So how do we, moving forward, what's the solution to all of this? Because I've had a solution, I've said it numerous times and I've been chastised for it, would be that anybody that believes that Muhammad's life is a perfect example of a life, and they believe in carrying out violent acts against people for being non-believers, these people shouldn't be in our country, they shouldn't be in the West. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, look, here's the thing. So there are certain concepts that have been tried and tested, right? So, for example, like communism. Across the world, we've seen the concept of communism being tried and tested, and guess what? It fails, and it costs the lives of over 100 million people plus. So, integration. We have tried this. We've got a multicultural society in Britain, and we've got this policy because our government are completely corrupt, and they don't care about the fact that there are children that are starving and they've got no food. They're having to be fed in schools over the summer holidays because their parents can't afford to feed them. And these are British citizens. They don't care about veterans sleeping in the underpasses in London, in Elephant and Castle. Places that I grew up, places in London that I used to walk through the streets, walk past men, and admittedly, as a child, I would just walk past these people without any knowledge of or any kind of acknowledgement that these men had served for us. I mean, what kind of country allows that to happen? So, but this concept of mass immigration, like bringing people in, which is Corbyn's policy, open door, bring them all in, let's all live together, utopia. That's what they're selling. This is why Corbyn was so successful with the youth in the last general election, is because he's selling a concept of utopia, which is basic. Exist. Of course it doesn't. But this is communism, and that's why so many people bought into it in the likes of China. Because what was being sold was everyone's equal, right? This is great. What a great concept. Everyone's equal. No one's above anyone. We all get the same amount of money. We all have somewhere to live. We all have a job. We're all happy. It doesn't work like that. We've seen that. It's cost over 100 million lives. And so the same thing is now playing out with this mass immigration. We're bringing people into the country that can't assimilate. They're not capable. Their scriptures do not permit them to assimilate. And so if you come into a country and you can't assimilate, then you have to leave. It's as simple as that. And that doesn't make you racist. It doesn't make you a bigot. I mean, first of all, Islam's not a race, right? So you can't be racist. It's an
outdated ideology that, in my humble opinion, belongs in the 7th century.
Well, I agree with you. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and a lot of people in this country do, but they're too scared to say it because they'll face the same kind of, nonsense that we face. But if you invited someone into your home and they mistreated it, or if all of a sudden you woke up in the morning and there were 20 people in your living room, right, and they said, yeah, but we needed somewhere to stay. We've left where we were living and we've come to your home because it's comfortable. It's more comfortable than where we were. Yeah. Does that mean you have to keep them there? They come in, they mistreat your home. This is our nation. This is our temple. This is where Christ lost his rag when everyone was disrespecting his temple. It's the same thing. If people don't assimilate, they have to leave.
But in my opinion, I just don't understand this. Like you've quite rightly said about homelessness, homeless army veterans that are on the street. I don't understand why these groups that are mainstream groups, Stand Up to Racism, Hope Not Hate, and the rest of the lovely leftists, they want to carry on importing people into this country. At the same time, they're happy to see homeless veterans on the streets and homeless people in general on the streets. Surely the solution would be to look after our own before we open the floodgates and bring in people who quite frankly don't deserve to be here. Because if we look back at our history, and we've got a tremendous history, we're the greatest country in the world bar the United States of America, and we didn't get to that standing by rolling over and giving into the enemies, the barbarians, as we say. And if I look at things, I always look at it as a historical context. So I look back at the formation of Islam, and we saw how that Christianity was decimated in the Middle East, and we saw that North Africa was Christian and it was completely decimated and turned into Islamic land. So for me, I find it really difficult when we've got groups of leftists and we've got the political class bringing in these people that, quite frankly, are here for one reason and one reason only, which is to take over. And everywhere that we find the belief system that is Islam, we find there are white girls, Sikh girls, basically any non-believers are targeted sexually. We see a violent culture that has been brought into the country where they're not tolerant of us, but we have to be tolerant of their beliefs, and it's truly disturbing. So I think moving forward, like you said, I know you're a staunch Christian, and that's one of the things that has drawn me to you over the years, because you've done some brilliant things over the years. You've given it to them outside kebab houses. You've turned up at Anjan Chowdhury's house.
Speaker's corner.
You've steamed through Berry Park with your cross, and you've done that. And I think that's why so many people admire you, and that's why I think, if there's people that watch the stuff that we put out online and they're scared about coming out, then just look at this woman. Look at what this woman's done, and look at the persecution, and look at everything that she's been through since then. So which is bringing me on to my next question: what has been the most difficult part of all of this? Because you've gone through hell, and the thing is, a lot of people don't realise what you've gone through because you've not been as active, but you've had that many conditions on you.
Yeah.
And you've got an army of people out there that support you and that want to stand by you, me included. We're with you all the way. So what was the most difficult thing that you've been through throughout all of your activism?
Gosh, well, I think people would expect me to say that the most difficult time was jail, but I'm going to be honest.
I spoke to you on the phone. You were laughing at me.
It wasn't, right? So I came out of prison, and some lefty, I think it was an SDLP candidate or something, took a photo of me in Belfast at an airport, and I had all these people saying, "Oh my gosh, she's lost loads of weight." Obviously, I've not lost any more; it's back on. But she's lost loads of weight. She looks like she's really, suffering. Here's the long and short. I'm not going to come out. I know we've seen the interviews, right? I saw Tommy Robinson when he came out of jail, and he was in bits. He had a really tough time. I have to say, I'm not going to lie. I cannot lie. I won't do it for the sake of political gain or anything else or favour. I didn't have a tough time in jail. Yes, I had a hit put out on me, and there were moments when I thought I could lose my life. But largely, I actually found the experience quite liberating, and that's going to sound quite strange. But I think for me, for some bizarre reason, I have no idea why, it's probably something that it's the only thing that's driven me apart from God, is I seem to thrive on the persecution. So the more they throw at me, we've heard in the scriptures, the Christian scriptures, blessed are the persecuted. Jesus Christ himself said, if the world hates you, remember it hated me first. And I always remember that. I always think about that. It's in John's Gospel. When everyone's going against me and I'm being persecuted and prosecuted and hounded and harassed, I can deal with that. I have to say, for me, the most difficult element over the last 6 years of activism is probably the kind of, I don't want to even say infighting, because it's not really, that's a term that we're all familiar with. I think I'm at a stage now where what I would like to see, and I think that's exactly what this represents here today, is unity, but real unity, honest unity, not unity as in you come and stand under my umbrella or you come and say what I want you to say. I mean, we're not going to see eye to eye on everything. We've both been labelled as Christian extremists, but I'm pretty sure we differ
both
on
proud
certain
of it.
things.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
We're going to have disagreements, right? But we've got common ground.
Absolutely. And so this is the thing. It's the same. I've found this along the line over the 6 years with most of the people I've met. I don't think I've ever met a handful of people have agreed with everything I've said. But we don't have to agree on everything. What unites us is our passion for our country, our nation, our people, and for me it's God, but it doesn't matter whether you're atheist, whether you're Sikh, whether you're Hindu. I actually don't care if you have been raised under the ideology of Islam. I have met numerous people that have come to me and said, "Do you know what, I've been raised a Muslim, I am scared to leave my to come out and say, actually, I don't buy into this ideology because it's oppressive and it discriminates and it's racist. And yes, the scriptures permit the taking of children for sexual favours, because that's in the scriptures. Yes, it promotes jihad." When someone comes to me, they're the people that I want to help the most, because I'm all about saving souls. So I think the time now, moving forward, is to just unite. And we won't get unity with everyone.
Yeah, we know that, don't we?
Of course, yeah. But there are some people that you just have to let them crack on.
Yeah.
But those who want to unite and have a genuine vested interest in this country, which anyone who's got a child, anyone who associates himself with our flag, anyone who aligns himself to our country and our nation and our flag and our queen, they have a vested interest in the future of this nation. And I think moving forward, that's how we're going to take back control.
So what can